Sports Sedans. Let's take a look at your grid for this first race on the card. It's Darren Hossack that will start out of pole position. Tony Ricciardello alongside. Des Wall starts out of position 3. Bailey out of 4th. And Anthony McCready rounds out the top 8. Let's head up to the commentary box for highlights of race 1.
Let's take a look at highlights now of race 1 of the Kerrick Industrial Equipment Australian Sports Sedan Series. It's the first time we saw the guys, well, basically the Ricciardello-Hossack battle since the dramas at Malala.
Yeah, combative round, early start though. One of the cars out very, very wide at the exit of turn 1, and it was dramas all the way through this first race.
Yeah, the 97 car was unfortunately the problem into that turn 1, but
David McGuinness in there as well. Wade and the Calibra had a spin at Sutton's corner. Meanwhile, Kerry Bailey putting the pressure on Tony Ricciardello.
Massive field here, very impressive lineup of cars, and Ricciardello with some problems.
Yeah, slowing on the main straight and struck dramas. Butler went past him, his Trans Am Camaro, and then had a big spin, the Menai Blinds car, from just down the road, not too far away from Oran Park. Had all sorts of problems at turn 2.
And Ricciardello's weekend just got worse, didn't it? Well, a good win for Hossack. He strikes back in the best possible way. He got the win over Kerry Bailey, Des Wall, Jeff Barnes, Daniel Tomasi, Trent Young, Scotty Butler, and McGuinness soldiered back to 8th.
Phil Cronton was ninth ahead of Shane Broadford, Chris Donnelly, Bob McLaughlin in the Commodore, Chris Jackson, Damien Jamieson, Bruce Banks, and Colin Smith.
Good result, buddy. Talk us through that race.
Yeah, that was it was a good result for us. I mean, obviously unfortunate that Tony had some dramas there, but that's a little bit what this category is about. You know, I've said before, it's, you know, part of it's driving the car fast, the other part's engineering it to finish the race, and we probably needed that really a little bit in our championship, not wanting to wish misfortune onto him, but, you know, we were trailing by quite a bit after a disastrous Malala round, so, you know, to be strong here is good. I know Tony's working very hard, and there's some other guys, you know, Des and Kerry, that are also up there fighting hard too. So just got to keep going. Fingers crossed we can get through the day.
Let's take a look at your grid for race 2 in the Kerrick Sports Sedans. And starting out of pole position, it's Darren Hossack. Alongside him, Kerry Bailey, Des Wall on the next row of the grid with Jeff Barnes. Starting out of 8th, Scott Butler. And out of 16th spot, it is Bruce Banks. Well, Julie Nemi's been down into the pits, caught up with a few of the drivers as they got ready for this race. Here's what they had to say.
Tony, problem with the shock sending you back to the rear of the grid for the next race?
Yeah, we had a little drama with one of the shocks, and it pretty much started from the first lap that we had, and just struggled, but the car wouldn't make it to the end, so, you know, back of the grid and see how we go for race 2.
David, looks like your pit crew's a little hard at work there getting you ready for the next race.
Yeah, look, we started 11th for race 1. It was pretty good. The car was a bit untidy towards the end, very loose in the back, so just making a couple of minor changes to the geometry of the back end just to settle it down in the longer run, and try and move forward again in race 2 and move up in top 5 maybe for the final.
So race number 2, they're on the grid. It is Bailey alongside Hossack. Ricciardello with some dramas. What a weekend it's been for him. He's got plenty of work to do down the very back, Krause.
Yeah.
Oh, Trent Young.
And a massive field, the biggest of the year for the Kerrick Sports Sedans. Farewelling Oran Park, a circuit that they have made their own. Des Wall looking to make this race his own in the Corvette. Kerry Bailey on the outside in that 300 ZX.
Just left the door open a little bit too wide. 3 wide, thank you very much. There is Donnelly in the Falcon. Oh, big trouble here. A car has spun in the dust. Oh, they're across the racetrack. We got cars everywhere. This is a multiple car wreck.
Dean Cam in there in the Corvette. Ricciardello caught up. Bob McLaughlin there in the Commodore that Ricciardello's just gone past. So all sorts of cars caught up, safety car out, understandably so. That big shunt under the bridge. Here it is again in slow-mo, thanks to Kerrick, series sponsor here at the Shannons Nationals of the Sports Sedans.
Donnelly got together, I'm not sure who it was, maybe it was the 49 car. We'll try and have a look from the other side as it turns around. So it's the 46 car that got turned as a result of all that. That's David McGuinness, the Co-Steer Automotive entry. So restart. Chaos, bedlam, it's hectic, Gotti. We get set for a start.
And for Tony Ricciardello, he's found half a dozen positions in the first lap because of that. So watch his merry charge through the field in that unbelievable Alfa Romeo. Back to green flag racing. Here's Darren Hossack. New paint job on the number 1 Audi Spares A4. An amazing car. Off the racetrack goes Barnes.
Barnstorming his way on the dirt, unfortunately, is the La Bella Roma restaurant driver. Oh, look at Des Wall. The awesome Corvette is back. We ride on board with him. The Shannon's Mount Aqua spring water driver, charging hard. Of course, his dad, his son, I should say, David, a very handy steerer and touted to be one of the future V8 supercar stars, while Dad plies the trade in the awesome vet.
Great noise, isn't it? What an amazing car.
It's not fair to call it noise. I would have said music, symphony.
Yeah, that's much more apt, I think, isn't it? And he drives it well, does Des. Des is one of the iconic names from Sports Sedan racing here at Oran Park Raceway. Daniel Tomasi's had an on-off year. He's missed a couple of rounds, but making his return to the Carrick National Series.
3 meetings this year. We've rebuilt the car. So, yeah, look, it's shaping up good. Tony and Darren look like they're going to have a beauty of a fight, so I wish I was on the grandstands to see it.
Daniel started his career in drag racing, interestingly enough. Has always had that immaculate jet black Calibra. There it is right now, the man we're speaking of. And there is the Men-Eye Blinds entry of Butler, who was caught up in the wars in that earlier race.
Yeah, literally from just up the road. Not too far.
No!
Gone with Tomasi. Contact there. Jackson there in the Calibra as well. The Domain Prestige Homes car is not going anywhere. You know, you talk about having big fields, it's great, but it also means that there's a lot more possibility for things to go wrong further down the grid.
Kerry Bailey is the man who's some championships to his name, having a pretty consistent weekend so far. And there's Barbie Irvin. Sounds like a NASCAR driver, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it?
Very cool looking car, that is for sure. There's no non-cool looking Sports Sedans, is there? We're riding back on board with Desi, back down through the gearbox here into turn 1 and 2. To love about that sound.
It's unreal. So this great flowing piece of racetrack, he's chasing down 5-time Australian Sports Sedan champion Kerry Bailey. The 300ZX reports through that his new car continues to take shape, and some rumours floating around that the Ricciardellos will have a new car. We'll talk more about that and find out who wins in the Carrick Sports Sedans when we come back from this short break.
Welcome back to Sydney's Oran Park Raceway. It's round 8 of the Shannon's Nationals and the final ever National Series event here at Oran Park. They're watching the Carrick Industrial Equipment Australian Sports Sedan Series. You were alluding before that the Ricciardellos might retire the awesome Alpha GTV. I hope it's going to be put in a museum alongside like John Worsfold's number 24 Guernsey or something. Yeah. It's iconic.
Yeah, you'd hope so, wouldn't you? It's a remarkable car. Just rumours in the paddock that maybe it's time for them to build something new to challenge this amazing Audi of Darren Hossack. But I tell you what, right now Kerry Bailey and Des Wall are doing a good job dicing for second place in this field as Ricciardello continues to work his way through. Desi closing in now on Bailey. It's a great dice.
Anthony McCready out there enjoying his time behind the wheel. Another great competitor in what is a phenomenal series. We spoke to Anthony earlier.
Tell us about your car.
It's a Nissan 300ZX, fuel-injected 6-litre Chev, and it has a Hewland VGC transaxle in it. Ex-Stephen Voigt car, so reasonably new to us. Had it for 12 months now, and haven't got the best out of it yet, but we're working on that, and hopefully this weekend will be good for us. Definitely one of the most exciting places to race. Wakefield has its own challenges, as does Eastern Creek, but certainly it's probably one of the most exciting places to race for me.
Kerry Bailey surrounded by walls at this juncture.
Not wrong. Back on board with Des Wall. Oh, listen to this. Standing at the exit of pit lane on pit wall there is the most remarkable thing when these cars go past. Well over 235, 240 k's an hour. It's also impressive that this racetrack in 1977 was the scene of a win by Frank Gardner in the Australian Sports Sedan Championship. It was only the second Australian Sports Sedan Championship ever contested. It was Frank's last ever title before he retired from driving and became a team manager. So it's appropriate that they're racing here and farewelling Oran Park just a few days after the very untimely and sad death of Frank Gardner, one of the great legends in Australian motorsport, both in Australia and worldwide. Of course, a 3-time British touring car champion. So Oran Park, a lot of sentiment this weekend, farewelling a racetrack, farewelling a legend of the sport and Australian sports sedan racing as well.
Looked like Bruce Banks is about to farewell an engine. That thing was making some serious black smoke just then. Bailey, as you said, a 5-time national champion. He's eating up the ground, driving away in that 300ZX from Des Wall. Let's take a look at your placings. Darren Hossack doing the job over Kerry Bailey. Des Wall back to Bobby Irvin, Chris Jackson, Tony Ricciardello. Not the best of weekends for the Red Rooster entry.
But he's working his way through the field. Bear in mind, he started last in a 25-car field this weekend. So to get himself back up inside the top 6 is no mean feat. Good performance from the West Aussie, the Red Rooster. B&M Ricciardello entry. He and Hossack had, plenty to say to each other and about each other at Mallala. Things got very heated between the two of them. We're just watching the 51 car creeping up on the inside down into turn number 1 just there. That is, of course, Bobby McLaughlin having a pretty good run on the Marinelli's Mechanic and Performance entry. Daniel Jamieson there in the Jag, looking to work his way up the inside at turn 2. Another one of the very local drivers just down the road in Oran.
Closest thing Bobby Irvin.
Oh no, from the top 5 position too. Running in 5th place in the RX-7. What a shame.
This is probably the closest thing we have to DTM in Australia. This car, isn't it? The Hossack Audi. Down the main straightaway. It has been another dominating performance for Darren Hossack. He takes the big stick to the field. Kerry Bailey gets 2nd. The consistent Des Wall is there in 3rd place. 4th was Chris Jackson. Well done over Tony Ricciardello, Phil Crompton, Bobby McLaughlin and Dean Cam rounding out the top 8.
Yeah, good run from Dean Cam. In 9th was Jamieson, Banks, Johnson, Young, Smith. And then the first of the cars to non-finish, Bobby Irvin, Donnelly and Smith.
Well, Kerry, a great result for you in that last race. Talk us through what it was like out there.
Well, thank you. It was good, actually. It was a little bit slippery at the end, but I was trying to hang on to Darren all the way, but he's just got too much power or too much speed onto the straight, and he gets that gap and it's hard to peg back. And Des was behind me, but I probably had his measure a little bit, but he wouldn't have wanted to put a lot more pressure on him. I'd have been in a bit of trouble.
This meeting, where did I start with all the problems we've had? Like we hurt the rear tyres in qualifying, had a diff problem. First race we blew a rear shock and dumped oil on the back tyres. So for the second race, we can only use used old tyres. So we did as good as we could, brought it home in one piece, stayed out of trouble, and got a result.
There are 3 main types of engines that power the sports sedans. First up, the traditional V8 Chev with a 12.5 to 1 compression ratio delivering 700 horsepower. Then there's the 20V triple rotor turbo, similar to a 2-stroke, which also delivers 700 horsepower. Then there's a Nissan SR20 multi-valve turbo, which produces 550 horsepower. Of course, the turbos can be boosted to produce up to 800 horsepower if a driver wants. That'll help produce a fantastic quali lap, but the engine wouldn't last a race distance.
Time now for the grids for the 3rd race of the weekend for the Kerry Sports Sedans, and starting out of pole position, man is proving pretty hard to beat here at Oran Park. It's Darren Hossack, alongside him Kerry Bailey, Des Wall on the 2nd row of the grid, and Cam will start out of position 8, and out of 16th spot it's Tomasi. Let's find out what the drivers had to say as they got ready to head out onto the circuit for the final race of the weekend.
Damien, you're going to start from 11th at Oran Park. What are your thoughts of the final race?
Yeah, certainly an interesting track. This is our first visit here, and certainly a learning experience. In the second race today, we went really well. The first race this morning, we probably ran out a little bit of talent down to turn 1, but we finished both races, and certainly we're off 11 for the final, so we'll see what happens.
Trent, you've got the toughest job out there, starting from the rear of the grid for the final race.
Yeah, and we're not having a great weekend, and then I got a really good start, but apparently I jumped it, so I got a drive through, but anyway, that happens.
Well, how do you wrap up a weekend like that? What can you do from back there?
Basically just really try your hardest. There's nothing you can really do. The front guys will get away anyway, so we'll just plod along and see how we go at the end of the race.
That would be Bo's dad. Trent Young, a big fan of the Seaton family. As we get set to go racing, it's Hossack v Bailey on the front row. Wall getting away to a good start as well. The last ever race for Sports Sedans here at Oran Park Raceway.
Yeah, the history of sports sedan racing at this track goes way back to the early 1970s with the Toby Lee series, when greats like John Harvey, John McCormack and Max Stewart went at it in front of massive crowds, and then this became an integral part of the Australian Sports Sedan Championship and Series as Ricciardello tries to fire it up the inside there of Des Wall, gets it up the inside at turn 4 and gets it done.
Well, Ricciardello's not going to be messing around. He'll want Hossack's lead. You can bet on that. Everybody wants the bragging rights to say they won the last ever Sports Sedan race at the iconic Oran Park Raceway. Hosso, though, with that big number 1 on the door. Good reason for that.
Yeah, defending champion, that's why, and he has been in very good form. Controversial round between himself and Ricciardello at Malala. It's been a little bit more straightforward this year, but that battle has just been building since Sandown last year when they went at it for the title, as Barnes makes a move out of Sutton's corner in that amazing Labella Roma car.
Yeah, both Donnelly and Barnes had issues in the previous race getting agricultural. We just see Tomasi going by there as well. The Calibra is a good body style for Sports Sedans. There's a couple of them out there. We're just watching them close in now on Bailey. The 11 car very solid this weekend too.
Yeah, Chris Jackson, one of the locals, runs a lot in the New South Wales State Sports Sedan Series, gets plenty of miles, so local knowledge coming to the fore here as Ricciardello looks to go up the inside at turn 3 and does so. He's third. He's coming, is Ricciardello.
Yes, and no one would know that better than Kerry Bailey, who can now see plenty of red in the window, in the mirror side of things, as the lively West Aussie, whose dad started this all for Ricciardello's family point of view, up the inside to see how hard Jackson was pushing to keep that car on line.
Nothing like a lot of horsepower and trying to keep a car in a straight line. Over the dogleg, Jackson now looking in his mirrors and seeing that bright yellow nose of Des Wall's number 38 Corvette, the RDS Racing entry.
For a lot of the younger viewers, they'd only know Tony Ricciardello behind the wheel, but it was his dad, Basil Ricciardello, that was really an iconic Western Australian motor racing identity.
Yeah, Tony jumped in as an apprentice, thought they'd give him a steer, see what would happen, and well, 6 Sports Sedan titles later happened. It was very successful. Let's catch up with Shane Bradford. He's a newcomer to the Carrick Sports Sedans this weekend.
Well, this is our first run at the Nationals rounds this year. We ran at Morgan Park, but that wasn't full Sports Sedan National round. New car for us, so yeah, we're looking forward to the weekend.
Tell us about your car.
We bought it early in the year from Alan Ferguson in New Zealand. It's a Riley Scott chassis, built 93 in America, raced by Jack Baldwin. It's actually the Hot Wheels Camaro that you see, little Matchbox Camaros, and Craig Baird won the 2000 Trans Am Championship in it, so yeah, really good car.
We've got to say a big shout out to Carrick Industrial Equipment, who've been behind this series for at least the last 2 or 3 years and really do continue their support. They always dig deep and they get right involved with the respective teams. So good on you to all the folks at Carrick as we watch this battle for second place now.
Now this is remarkable. Between these two drivers, 11 Australian Sports Sedan Championships, and there goes Ricciardello up the inside. Second place now. Johnson's gone round in the Tirana. The 6-cylinder powered LJ has spun at turn 3. Lives to fight another day though. Here's the replay. Just spun on his own. I thought the 18 car might have been involved, but just a bit of a harmless incident there.
Amazing how you should know the models of the Tiranas. A bit of a Tirana guru that you are.
A bit partial to the old Torrey, no doubt.
RX-7 getting around here pretty nicely indeed. The number 18 car over the top of the flip-flop, and Ricciardello is through and hanging on to that narrow advantage over Bailey. Where is Hossack? Well, he's got a bit of a ground up his sleeve, so Rico is going to have to turn up the heat substantially, but Bailey's got to let him go or he's never going to catch him.
Check this out, the Fiat. How cool is this thing? Nick Smith from New South Wales and the little Fiat, the Fiat Talk entry. Is the Stig, apparently.
Now remember too, Brian Smith was a big part of the whole Ricciardello furniture as well with that car, so it's been a bit of an evolution. I'm just digressing a bit, just harking back to remembering some of the people that have steered Sports Sedans over the years. As you said, it opens up a bit of ground over Bailey, but they're not going to catch the Audi. Hosso is flying today.
Remember Tony Edmondson's Alfa Romeo, the Italian livery car that was a forerunner to this car that Ricciardello was driving today. So some great names, some great history here at Oran Park, the Carrick Sports Sedans. This is a wonderful battle between these two. Between the first 3 cars on the racetrack, there are 13 Australian Sports Sedan titles. Only one other driver has won a Sports Sedan championship in Australia since 1996, other than these 3, and that's Dean Randall when he won in the Saab a few years back.
Of course, Dean went on to a spectacular moment at Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit that he'll be forever remembered for, when he unfortunately flipped the model big time. And of course, when you throw in Darren Hossack's name, he's also got an Australian Superkart Championship to his name as well. So he's a very handy steerer as we watch Des Wall in the sleek lines of the Vet, which almost burnt to the ground earlier this year.
Yeah, very lucky to have it back on the racetrack, no doubt about that. And driving it very well this weekend is Des. Blue flags flying as Hossack comes up to lap Johnson. Ricciardello, then Bailey, having their battle for second and third. Chris Jackson, great performance this weekend by the local driver, running the Calibra. Doesn't match it up with the Carrick Sports Sedan Nationals that often, but he's running inside the top 5 and has done so since the first race.
Behind Des Wall too is Phil Crompton in the Ford Mustang. It's got a very unique colour to it. And Kerry Bailey, you spoke earlier of how many wins he has in this national series. He's a great competitor, very quietly spoken. It's a great car. We spoke to him earlier.
Tell us about how the championship is shaping up. We're getting close to the end of the season.
Well, performance-wise, I think we'll go all right, but I missed Malala and really only got points at Wakefield Park earlier in the year, so we're down on points, but we'll see what we can do in the later rounds.
How's the racing been otherwise this year?
It's been great. It's been really good, really close. We've got a very good roll-up here this weekend, about 25 cars, so I'm looking forward to it.
What a great competitor he's been. He would love to win this race too, but I can't see anyone blowing wind up this man right now.
No, Darren's driving away. Gilliland there, been lapped in the Mazda. Johnson and the Turan have been lapped. Then back to this battle for second and third. Bailey's not letting Ricciardello drive away too much here as the Hoss starts the final lap. 1 to go to make it a perfect weekend for the Audi Spares A4. Darren Hossack, who has now a nice lead in the Carrick Sports Sedan series with just a few rounds to go. And this is about to be a very comprehensive send-off to Oran Park for this man.
You would hope and you'd assume he'd have the presence of mind now to enjoy this, to look around, to enjoy the last lap of this racetrack and to think, yes, I'm pretty well heading towards the series win. I'm enjoying my last lap ever of this circuit in this car. Look around and just feel the vibe.
And it's appropriate that Ricciardello has got back to second and Bailey in third. The 3 foremost drivers, I guess, in sports sedan racing over the last 15 years. They've won 13 titles in 14 years, which is just remarkable. Their first, second and third in the final sports sedan race at a track that has had so much history. So the next generation of sports sedans in Darren Hossack's Audi A4 will be the last one to win at Oran Park Raceway. Checkered flag at the ready, and Darren Hossack will drive his way to victory at Oran Park.
Yeah, the Victorian buttons right off, just to coast across the line. Acknowledge the team and acknowledge the moment as well. The checkered flag comes down on sports sedans at Oran Park Raceway.
So confirmation of your results. Ricciardello was second, Bailey third, Jackson in fourth. Good drive. Des Wall, Phil Crompton, Trent Young and Scott Butler, the Menai Blinds car, got home in eighth.
Dean Cam, Bobby McLaughlin, Bruce Banks, Shane Bradford, Nick Smith and Gilliland, Johnson and Jamison rounding out the 16.
Well done, Tony. That was a good fight back after a difficult weekend.
Yeah, look, I mean, race 2 and race 3, we sort of fought back as best as we could with what we had, and I think it's going to give us an idea for our next meeting and on what we need to do and get it ready. So we'll see how we go, and second's better than nothing.
Well, Darren, congratulations. Another great result for you in that race and a round win.
Yeah, that was really what we needed after Malala. It was a bit of a messy meeting for us, and Tony had a lead in the championship, so we really needed to come here and just do the best job we possibly could, and I think we did that this weekend. It looks easy out there, but a lot of marbles on the edge of the track and everything. The sun's always an issue at this place in race 3, but made extra special because it's the last national round here, and to win the last national sports sedan race is something we'll be able to take home with us and keep forever.
So there's a very happy bunch of boys, as well they might be. Hossack continuing to do the job series-wise. Let's have a look at the points, Krause.
Yeah, well, he's building a series lead, but it's only 10 points over Des Wall and Tony Ricciardello in third. So really close at the top. Then Bailey, Jackson, McLaughlin, Butler and Bruce Banks sits in the 8th position.